Have you ever felt a heaviness you couldn't name? A strange ache in your soul that doesn't seem to have a reason? You wake up, go through the motions, and convince yourself that everything is fine. But deep down, you're not sure what fine even means anymore. Sometimes, grief doesn't knock on your door with a loud announcement. It doesn't always wear the face of a funeral, a breakup, or a goodbye. Sometimes, it slips into your life quietly, disguised as numbness, exhaustion, or even anger. And the scariest part? You might not even know it's there. Today, we're uncovering 5 signs you're grieving and don't even know it. But before we dive in, I want to ask you something. When was the last time you truly felt alive? Think about it. Not just happy, not just distracted, but truly alive. When your heart felt light and your mind wasn't weighed down by invisible burdens. You might be thinking, grief? No, I'm not grieving. No one close to me has died. My life is fine. But grief isn't just about death. Grief is the pain of loss. Loss of a loved one, yes, but also loss of dreams, relationships, routines, even a version of yourself you once knew. It's the silent weight of what could have been. And if you don't face it, it doesn't disappear. It just hides. Here's the truth. Grief doesn't care about timing. It doesn't care about how strong you think you are or how busy you keep yourself. It shows up in the quiet moments, when you're alone, and sometimes it doesn't look like tears or heartbreak. Sometimes it looks like nothing at all. We live in a world that tells us to move on, to stay busy, to keep smiling. But as C.S. Lewis once said, getting over it so soon? But the words are wrong. It's not a matter of getting over. It's a matter of learning to live with it. You can't move on from what you haven't acknowledged. And that's why we're here today, to look grief in the face. Not to fear it, but to understand it. In the next few moments, we'll uncover the hidden signs of grief, the ones you might not recognize as grief at all. These signs are the body's way of speaking when the mind refuses to listen. And by the end of this journey, I hope you'll find something even deeper than answers. I hope you'll find hope. So let's begin. Let's uncover the truths we've been too afraid to name. Grief is a language we're never taught to understand. It doesn't announce itself with flashing lights or grand gestures. Instead, it seeps into the smallest cracks of your life, changing the way you feel, act, and even see the world. And it does all this quietly. So quietly that most people never notice it's there until it's too heavy to carry. Sign 1. Emotional numbness. Have you ever felt like life has lost its color? Like the joy you used to feel, the excitement for little things, has been replaced by a strange emptiness? This is emotional numbness, one of the most common signs of hidden grief. Emotional numbness is your mind's way of protecting itself from pain. It builds walls around your feelings, not realizing that those walls also keep out the joy, love, and connection you need to heal. Sign 2. Irritability. Do you find yourself snapping at loved ones over small things? Feeling irritated by the slightest inconvenience? Grief often disguises itself as anger because anger feels easier to express than vulnerability. When we're grieving, our emotions have nowhere to go. They build up inside, looking for release, and often come out as frustration, impatience, or even rage. Anger isn't who you are. It's grief's armor, protecting a wound you haven't dared to touch. And when you recognize that, you can begin to take off the armor piece by piece. Sign 3. Fatigue. Not all tiredness is physical. Sometimes it's your soul that's weary. If you're struggling to get out of bed, to find the energy to care about things that once mattered, you might be carrying the invisible weight of grief. Grief drains you. It demands energy. Energy to suppress emotions, to keep up appearances, to carry on as if everything is fine. It's no wonder so many people feel utterly exhausted without knowing why. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "The death of a beloved is an amputation." And just like physical wounds take time to heal, emotional wounds require rest. If your soul feels tired, listen to it. Rest isn't weakness. It's necessary. Sign 4. Avoidance. Do you avoid certain places, songs, or even conversations? Grief often hides in the things we can't face, the memories, objects, or moments that remind us of what we've lost. Avoidance feels like protection, but in reality, it prolongs the pain. The more we run from grief, the more it roots itself in our lives, waiting for the moment we can't run anymore. Facing grief isn't easy, but it's the only way forward. As C.S. Lewis so beautifully said, "To love at all is to be vulnerable, and in that vulnerability we find healing." Sign 5. Overachievement. This is the one that surprises most people. When grief hides in your life, it doesn't always look like sadness or stillness. Sometimes it looks like overachievement, burying yourself in work, hobbies, or endless projects to outrun the pain. On the surface, you might seem productive, even thriving, but beneath it all, there's a part of you that's afraid to slow down. Because slowing down means facing what you've been running from. Grief doesn't disappear just because you're busy. It waits. It waits for the quiet moments, for the cracks in your schedule, to remind you that healing can't be rushed. But here's the truth. Grief isn't the end of the story. Recognizing these signs is the first step to healing. Because healing begins not when you run, but when you stop, breathe, and acknowledge the weight you've been carrying. But here's the truth. Grief is not the enemy. It's not something to be feared or avoided. It's a teacher, a mirror, a painful but necessary reminder of what it means to be alive. Left unacknowledged, hidden grief can seep into every corner of your life. It can strain relationships, erode self-esteem, and leave you feeling disconnected from the very things that once brought you joy. It can make you push people away, even the ones who love you most. It can make you doubt your worth, your purpose, your ability to ever feel whole again. But the most dangerous thing about hidden grief is how easily it convinces you that you're alone, that no one else feels what you feel. And that lie, more than anything, is what keeps so many of us stuck. Here's what I want you to know. Healing begins by simply speaking your pain aloud. Joining a support group, talking to a trusted friend, or seeking therapy can help you find the words for what you're feeling. Other times, healing comes in the form of movement. Taking a walk, practicing yoga, or simply breathing deeply. These small acts remind your body that it's safe, that you don't have to carry the weight of grief alone. Creativity is another powerful tool. Write, paint, and sing. Whatever helps you express the emotions you've been holding inside. As C.S. Lewis once said, "Art has no survival value. Rather, it is one of those things that give value to survival." Moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean getting over it. It means learning to carry your grief in a way that no longer consumes you. It means making space for joy, even as you honor the pain. You don't have to rush. You don't have to have all the answers. Healing is not a straight line. It's a journey. And every step, no matter how small, is a step toward hope. If you've seen yourself in any of these signs, know this: you're not alone. Grief may feel heavy, but you don't have to carry it forever. There is light, even in the darkest moments, and there is hope waiting for you on the other side of the pain. We grieve because we love, and love is always worth it. If this touched you, share it with someone who might need it. Sometimes, all it takes is a reminder to start healing.